Everyone to the regular meeting of council, January 25th, 2022. And I'd like to call this meeting to order. We begin our meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee peoples, acknowledging the One Bowl and Spoon Treaty. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interests? Okay, seeing none. Move on to the mayor's remarks. Please note that the meeting proceedings are being broadcast live, recorded, and made available through the website and youtube.com. A virtual public house was held on January 18th to discuss the implementation of a licensing bylaw to regulate short-term rentals in the township. The open house was well attended and a lot of productive feedback was received. The public is encouraged to provide comments, feedback respecting the proposed bylaw by Friday, February the 4th. For those who could not attend the open house, please find the live stream video posted on our township website. You can view it and you can still submit your comments to our office and they will be taken into account. Regional Council meets for a special meeting on February the 3rd, and Wainfleet Council will hold their next regular meeting in chambers on February the 15th. The chambers will still remain closed to the public until further notice. I would like to also compliment at this time our operations and road crews staff. The big snowstorm we had last week was a significant amount of snow, and our roads were cleaned up within 24 hours, winged back, and I did not receive one phone call or email of complaint. So kudos to the operations staff. Good job, everybody. We did a great job. And I know for a fact that elsewhere in the region, the other municipalities were struggling quite a bit. And we were done and finished, and it was great. So earlier today, staff circulated a memo to council regarding an emergency closure of Oswego Creek Bridge. And I'm going to ask the CAO to speak to that and just to bring everybody up to speed on that, please.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Through you to council. There was a memorandum that was circulated just prior to the council meeting advising that the township received notice yesterday that Regional Road 45 at Oswego Creek, the bridge crossing at that location, the bridge has had to be taken out of service and closed immediately. The closure is a result of a structural appraisal that was undertaken where it was determined that the structure was not in sufficient condition to continue to bear traffic. At this time, we are coordinating with the region to get more information, and we're hoping to receive a determination from the region as to the approximate duration of the closure and what steps will be taken. In the meantime, that is a very important bridge structure that is used by both citizens of the township as well as services of the township. And I would advise that the Wainfleet Fire and Emergency Services Department, as a result of the closure, has had to make some special arrangements to ensure adequate fire coverage and protection to areas that are located to the, north and west of the bridge. And to that effect, the fire chief has reached out to Haldeman County to implement a mutual aid or a mutual assistance program in order to make sure that we get vehicles dispatched in timely manner to those areas. So again, the bridge is closed to traffic at this time. We are continuing to work with the region regarding its longer term status and when it might be brought back into operation. And we have taken steps to ensure the public safety with respect to fire and emergency services. If anyone has any questions, I know both the fire chief and the operations manager are online, and we will try to respond to any questions you might have.
Okay, Councillor McCollum.
Yeah, I hope this doesn't turn into another Forks Road Bridge where they think it's going to be closed for 2 or 3 years. I think, if I remember right, it's got cut out of budgets the last couple of years at the region. guessing if it was put forward, then the engineering and everything is done. It's just somebody decided they needed the money somewhere else. If the game plan I know on that road was probably to do the whole road over and bring it up to standards. But with that bridge out, we should be pushing that they build the bridge in 100 meters each side, and then worry about the east and west of it at a later date, but at least get this bridge back in operation as quick as possible.
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
Mr. Mayor, through you to council, by all means, again, staff are working closely with staff at the region to expedite whatever repairs are possible and replacement, if necessary, as possible, as quickly as possible. Again, this is sort of breaking stuff that just happened yesterday. So we will be bringing forth a more fulsome report. But in the meantime, we'll be pushing as hard as we can.
Yeah, and I met with Director Rael 3-4 months ago about 45 because I've been kind of pestering her fairly regularly about that whole road. So I'll be in touch with her again on that. And I know that Richard is already and Will have already been in contact with the region there. And it's a fairly important piece of road. It's a pain to get around it. So I agree. I like your thought there, Councillor McClellan. Just fix the bridge in 100 yards either side and we're done. So at least for now. But it was slated for engineering review in 2022 and construction to begin in 2023 is what our discussion was. So of course, things change. Okay, yep. Are there any remarks from any members of council? Councillor Cridland.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The next NPCA full authority meeting will be Friday, February the 18th. And this will be the AGM where the new chair and vice chair is installed and elected. So also to note is that the meeting times have moved from 9:30 to 9:00 a.m. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Comments? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to adoption of the previous minutes. Are there any comments or corrections on the draft of the previous minutes for that meeting on January the 4th? Okay, seeing none, a motion being the minutes of regular meeting of council held January 4th, 2022 be adopted as circulated. I need a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor McClellan and Councillor Cridland. And we have to do individual here, recorded votes. So in favor or opposed, Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
And Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
That is carried. Thank you. We have no delegations this evening, so we're going to move into staff reports and recommendations. And we'll go first to our Niagara Regional Transit staff report, and we'll look to our CAO, Will Colassa, to give an overview of that, please. Muted. You're muted, Will. Thank you.
Apologies. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council. The purpose of this memorandum is to introduce Niagara Region Staff Report PW 55 2021 regarding the creation of a new regional consolidated transit system for the entire region of Niagara. I will note that on the line today to be able to speak to this, if members have any questions regarding the staff report, are Mr. Matt Robinson, who is the Director of GO Implementation Office at Niagara Region and is the project lead for Niagara Regional Transit. Mr. Scott Fraser, who's the transportation lead for the GO Implementation Office, and Ms. Heather Talbot, who's the financial and special projects consultant with the region. Once again, at this time, Niagara Region is approaching all area municipalities seeking a triple majority to consent to the passage of a regional bylaw to provide the region with exclusive authority to establish and operate a transit system. I note again, the triple majority consists of 1, a majority of votes by regional council, 2, a majority of the number of municipal councils approached, and 3, the number of electors in those municipal councils supporting the initiative have to represent a majority of the total Niagara population. At this time, I would note that this triple majority has already been reached. It was actually reached back in December of last year. And what is happening now is the region is continuing or finalizing its approach to the remaining municipalities after that triple majority vote. Earlier this year, they approached the Township of Pelham on January 17th, who voted in favor of the proposal. Last night, the region was before Lincoln Council, who voted in favor. That leaves Wainfleet this evening and West Lincoln next week. So the proposal that's currently before you is the culmination of extensive works that have and discussions that have occurred between all the partner municipalities in response to earlier proposals that were shared with each municipality over the last several years. I, at this time, emphasize that the new model addresses three key elements that I think are attractive for the Township of Wainfleet to consider. First and foremost, the model proposes maintaining the status quo for transit service levels in each municipality. And each municipality has the ability to be able to choose to request service enhancements if they so desire. Number two, in addition to maintaining the status quo service levels, the model maintains status quo costings or revenues for each municipality. What that means is that each municipality pays only for the transit services that they receive, and those services are paid for out of the regional tax levy with no impact on the local municipality's individual budget. And finally, the last and perhaps most important point is that the model provides a governance system that allows each municipality, including Wainfleet, a permanent seat at the table on the commission in order to guide the system moving forward and provide input as to future needs and desires of the Township of Wainfleet. In addition to that sort of political representation on the commission, the model also includes an advisory body that made up of residents and other non-elected individuals to provide advice or recommendations to the commission when it makes its choices. So that pretty well summarizes the sort of proposal that's before you this evening. At this time, I'm prepared to try to respond to any questions. In the alternative, as I said, we do have some experts from the region available as well. But at this time, if there are any questions, we'll try to deal with those. And if there is a sort of possibility of support, that the motion for that, I believe the deputy clerk has shared with the mayor and is prepared to provide to you.
Okay, thank you, Will. Excuse me. So we have our three regional staff online as well. So if there's any questions or comments from any of the councillors, now's the time to forward those questions. Councillor Cridland.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you for the summary, Will. The three points that you highlighted, I think, are critical for us to consider supporting it if that's the final outcome. I think my recollection of the process so far is it was extremely collaborative and they listened to us. So when this first came out to us, maybe over a year ago, I want to say Wainfleet sent a clear message that the financial model just was not an option. It was a no deal. So what I think we have in front of us now, correct me if I'm wrong, is we're already paying for this amount of service through our levy, And now we will continue to get that value through the on-demand service that we're seeing continues to tick up. So I would like to be able to be in a position to support that, but I realize that's that's the will of council. But I see this as a game changer. So when we look at the small numbers for a small community, and we see 855 people that are moving around with this tiny little piece of paper in their pocket, people can go from two cars to one car, just like that. So if you've got a car that sits in the driveway for half a year, this is now a very viable option to move around in the region and from your front door. So I think it's just going to get more uptake. It can move labor, it can move retail, it can move anything we want if we want to use it just as it is now. So I plan on supporting it. So thanks for all the work that's been done by Wainfleet and obviously the project team.
Thank you, Councillor Cridland. Other comments? I know I have my say here as well, but go ahead, anybody else? Councillor Van Vliet.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you. The only comment I had is when I was reading the survey, in the pie chart that says how often do you use Niagara Transit, 44% of people surveyed said never. So it seems like a big project for people who never use it. That's all.
Okay, thank you. I have a question to Matt Robinson. If you could come on screen. Thank you. Good evening. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. I went through the charts and everything here as well. And in the survey, I had an interesting question popped up in my head. We had 16 respondents from Wainfleet responded to the survey. I would love to know, and nowhere else did I see, maybe I missed it, but nowhere else did I see what those comments were from those 16 residents. So I'm left asking myself, was it 16 residents in favor, 16 residents opposed? The problem I'm having is nobody has ever phoned or emailed the office that I'm aware of and said that, I really like this service because I'm handicapped or I'm a student. So we don't have any information about that. So I'm curious what those 16 respondents had to say about it. Is there any way, Matt, that we can delve into that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the question, the summary that's been provided here in the council package was the summary that was provided even to staff at our end. The corporate communications team who took in the 2,200 responses, they delved into and then summarized thematically what those looked like. So does that information exist? Yes. Can I parse it out at my fingertips here, at the ready? No, I can't.
Okay. It's just an interesting thing. I would like to have had that piece of information, just, of the 16 who replied, what were their responses? Just because from my perspective, we want to make sure that we look after all Wainfleet people. And if there's people out there who need that service, I would like to have heard from them, which I didn't, but I would like to, have gotten that information through the survey. So unfortunately, that was not forthcoming. In regards to this, my thoughts, everyone, is it's here. We're paying for it. The commission is an important aspect of this. What I see is now we're involved and it's here. It's important that we get a voice on that commission and we try to continue to make sure we shine a light on what works for Wainfleet. And that's an important part now, because to fight it now, it's here. So now we have to accept it. It's done. But we can't make changes now that will help Wainfleet unless we get on board and try to make those changes that work for Wainfleet. That's how I'm looking at it now. And I'd love to hear any opposing views or any other views in that sense, but that's where I'm seeing. Councillor McClellan.
Yeah, just one question, Mr. Mayor. Whether we vote for this or against it, it's coming. And whether we vote for it or against it, we get a seat at the table. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter if we support it or we don't support it. We still got a seat at the table on this thing and we get to talk. But it's still a lot of money for 16 comments out of 6,000 people. right? It's, I mean, even at 2,200 out of 500,000 people, that wasn't a lot of comments that came into the region on this thing. I mean, I don't see it as something that everybody's looking for. I've not had anybody come to me and say, oh, this is a great thing, or, it's just not there.
Yeah, thank you. And that was the feedback I was saying. I never got any feedback from anybody. So that's why I was curious what those 16 comments were. They probably were all against it. And I do agree with you. And I think that commission is 20 seats. Am I correct on that, Matt? If I remember, it's 20 seats on the commission, or
15, sir.
15.
Yes.
And we'll be one. So again, we'll be, the small player at the table again. So unfortunately, but if we want to affect change that favors Wainfleet, we got to sit at the table, and we've got to do what we can do to make it better for Wainfleet. As I said originally, it worked out to $493 a trip. There's no taxpayer anywhere, I think, that would be comfortable paying that kind of money to get somebody somewhere. I mean, we could run our own system for that. Anyways, is there any other questions or comments?
For that, I'll buy a billion.
Councillor Cridlin had her hand up. Go ahead, Councillor Cridlin.
Thank you, through Mayor. And again, obviously, we're not all agreeing, so that's always an enjoyable realm of council. So we are paying for it. It is a service that is new to Wainfleet. There are people benefiting. So like all services, we have an arena open that not everybody goes to. So this is a service. This isn't something that we have to have 100% participation in. It's now available. It's an asset to our community. We can say we have transit on demand now. So I think your point again about it doesn't matter either way is important. So it would be nice for us to support it based on all the other councils that have supported it. I don't think the financial numbers, Mayor, with all due respect, I think those numbers aren't quite right. I think when I listened to the regional, those numbers were then clarified. So we already did a lot of work to make this better. So this, in my opinion, has Wainfleet's fingerprints all over it, and West Lincoln for that matter. They were both very, objectionable. So it would be nice if we all supported, but again, thank you for the extra comments.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor McClellan, you had a follow-up there? Go ahead.
And for that amount of money a trip, I'll buy a Bentley and drive our residents around.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments or discussions on this? Councillor Cridlin makes good points. Everybody makes good points. And so if there's no other further discussion, we have definitely made our concerns heard at the region. We did not accept it at the first. So, and unfortunately through the system being what it is, we're along for the ride, no pun intended, regardless. So, okay, so if there's no other comments or questions, I'm going to read the motion here, and we can go from there. Okay, the motion being that Council of the Township of Wainfleet consents to the passage of bylaw number 2021-96 of the Regional Municipality of Niagara, being a bylaw to provide Niagara Region with the exclusive authority to establish, operate, and maintain a consolidated passenger transportation system for the Niagara region. I need a mover and a seconder for that, please. Mover is Councillor Cridlin, seconded is Councillor McClellan. Is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none. So this is to support it. We'll do a recorded vote. Councillor Van Vliet.
Opposed.
Councillor Cridlin.
In favor.
Councillor McClellan.
Opposed.
Councillor Gilmore.
Opposed.
And I am opposed. That is not carried. That motion is defeated. Okay, thank you. We'll now move to the COVID-19 impact report. And thank you, Matt, and your staff for being here to assist in this. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Council.
Okay, and I'll now go to William for the COVID report.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council. January 25th, 2022, and the most recent word from the province of Ontario, released on Thursday, January 20th, is there is a new roadmap to bring us out of the COVID situation that we're in right now. Effective January 31st of this year, the province will begin the process of gradually easing restrictions while maintaining protective measures. Of particular note for January 31st is the reopening of the Township Arena. So we will be able to reopen the facility based on the prevailing restrictions on indoor gatherings. So we do have reduced capacity limits. Likewise, we continue to operate under an instruction from the Regional Medical Officer of Health that was issued prior to Christmas regarding proof of vaccination and other protocols in the intent of minimizing the possibility of spread of the COVID-19. Moving from there, February 21st, there are additional health restrictions or measures that will be lifted, including reducing capacity limits in certain indoor public settings, and also increasing capacity limits in things such as indoor religious services, so on and so forth. On March 14th, the sort of final leg of the roadmap is additional steps to ease limits in indoor settings and lifting of capacity limits completely on religious services and ceremonies. This material came out late last week, and the Township's Emergency Control Group will be meeting actually tomorrow to review the full impacts on the Township. At this time, the key thing that we would note is that it's our anticipation and hope that this will be our final sort of Zoom meeting for council, and we will be able to resume some in-council chambers meetings, again, with strict protocols, but in chambers meetings beginning next month. In addition, staff will be sitting down to review the sort of building capacity limits for the administration offices, as well as the potential dates for reopening the doors to town hall so that we can deal with drop-in patrons without them having to make appointments. Those dates will be announced after our meeting and once we get further details. That summarizes the report for the time being. If members have any questions, we'll try to respond.
Okay, thank you. So we'll have the motion that this COVID report ASR 002-2022 be received for information. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Van Vliet and Councillor McClellan. And any discussion? Okay, seeing none, recorded vote to receive that report. Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
That's carried. Thank you. Now we'll move on to ASR 003-2022, the municipal election, voting methods and tabulators. And we'll look to our clerk, Ms. Ciuffetelli, to speak to that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to all members of council. Tonight's report comes as a requirement under the Municipal Elections Act to make a decision authorizing vote counting equipment and or alternative voting methods for the 2022 municipal election. Vote by mail has been the method used to run the last two municipal elections, and staff are recommending the council approve running the 2022 election the same as previous years by way of vote by mail and the use of vote tabulators.
Okay, thank you. Put a motion on the floor, admin staff report 003-2021 respecting the 2022 municipal election voting methods and tabulators be received. and that council approve the use of vote by mail as an alternative voting method for the 2022 municipal election, and that council approve the use of vote tabulators, and that staff prepare the required bylaws to be brought forward for consideration at a subsequent council meeting. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor McClellan and Councillor Gilmore, and discussion. Councillor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mayor. If I remember right, we were budgeting per year approximately 1/4 of the cost of the last election to pay for the election in 2022. So I'm wondering why it's more than doubled from, I mean, you're estimating 43,000. That's more than double what we were saving. So I'm pretty sure the last one was right around 20. So can somebody enlighten me as to what has changed in 4 years?
Okay, I'll look to Will or Mallory for that. Will, go ahead.
I'll take a first stab at it, and then perhaps either Mallory or Meredith will be able to fill in. I think Councillor Gilmore is correct. What normally happens is we try to budget an allocation each calendar year in advance of the election so that we're not hit with a major amount at the very end. One of the things that did happen, however, I know at least in 2018, which was my first election with the township, was that there were a number of monies that were maintained in reserves that we were able to draw down on rather than having to increase the annual allocation into the budgets on a regular basis. The reason we had those extra monies in reserves were because of the change in 2014 to a vote by mail system as opposed to an in-person election. An in-person election is a lot more costly, and there are additional funds required for voting places, all the additional workers that are required. It just goes on from there. So what was able to happen is that there was an ability to draw down on some of those reserves from the previous traditional style elections in prior years. The other thing that sort of has come into play is that we were anticipating this election not having to deal with a lot of the voter list management requirements of the election that have traditionally fallen on municipalities. There has been talk for many years about voter lists becoming the responsibility of Elections Ontario to manage and prepare the voters list for us. And that actually was supposed to take effect in 2022 this year. However, the implementation team with Elections Ontario, as well as MPAC, which is the source of the preliminary list of electors, was severely impacted. Their operations were severely impacted by COVID. And believe it or not, the situation is that the transfer of responsibilities that we were hoping for didn't happen. So as a result, we're finding that we have to expend some more funds on primarily in voter list management stuff that we hadn't been anticipating to expend this year. So that has sort of pushed things upwards a little bit compared to prior years. That said, the budget for the 2022 election is not really out of line with, I think, what was actually spent on the 2018 budget. It's basically inflationary type increases that we're seeing coming through from the vendors. So basically, what we're seeing being proposed for this election is carry forward from previous election that was done in a similar fashion.
Thank you. Councillor Gilmore, follow up.
Well, okay. but I'm pretty sure that we would have known what the cost of the 2018 election. Thankfully, at least that audit is done. And I would have, clearly, I remember talking about this at budget time last year, probably the year before, when we were allocating how much we were going to lay out. So I'll just work my question backwards then. What was the cost of the 2018 election? And then we'll go from there.
Is Mallory perhaps able to answer that? Ms. Louie?
For you, Mr. Mayor, I know I don't have that information at my fingertips.
Okay. Meredith, would you have that information available or?
We were actually just shy of $49,000. So we're actually under with the 43.
So the 2018 election was almost 49, and this one we're anticipating to be 43. So it's actually gone down. Okay.
Well, it is sort of, except I don't understand then why we were allowed to, I'll use that term loosely, only budget $5,000 a year then. If we knew that it was in the 40s, we should have been budgeting $10,000 a year. So I'm still confused. I mean, it is what it is. I guess the only saving grace is it's not 680 million.
Okay, thank you. Mallory, are you there, please? Can you shed some light on any of the discussion? Ms. Louie? Must not be able to hear. Councillor McClellan, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I seem to remember that our first budget meeting, in our first year in office, there was a deficit for the election that we had to put into our budget. I promised myself we would never leave that for the next people coming in. So whatever we're short, better go in this year's budget and we pay for it. Don't leave it for the next council to pick up our expenses. So I agree with Councilor Gilmore. We should have been putting more money in, and I don't know how we were allowed to leave it at that, but whatever the difference, the shortfall is, we've got to make it up. If it's $30,000 this year, we better put it in, because I don't want anybody else having to clean up our messes.
Yeah, thank you. And I agree. This is a simple math thing. If it's 49,000 or ballpark it at 50,000, divide by 4 years, and that's what we need to put away in reserves for it. So I'll have to make sure that come budget time that happens.
There's Mallory.
Oh, there's Mallory.
Kind of.
I think she's having some connectivity issues.
Sorry,
Connectivity.
I am. So cut me off if this isn't working.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're sporadic. Go ahead.
Okay, through the mayor to all of council. So the reason that this is sometimes challenging is it's not necessarily over budget. It is the cost of the election, but part of it is the clerk's wages, which we budget for in the administrative line. So although we allocated it to the election, we're using the amount of money that we put into the reserve to offset the expenses for the tabulators and other wages that aren't already found somewhere else in our budget. And since the clerk is there all year, we don't hire someone additionally. Just part of those wages were allocated to the election.
Okay, so as I understand that then, so the clerk's wages as she works on the election is contributed to the bottom line of cost of the election, and it doesn't go to township, generally speaking, under her normal. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. Okay, any other questions?
So yeah.
Sorry, Mallory, you're broken there again. Anything else? Okay. Seeing none, motions on the floor to receive this and approve. Discussion's finished, so we look for a recorded vote. Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor McClellan,
In favor.
Councillor Cridland,
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. That is carried. Okay, we'll move now to the Community and Development Services staff reports, admin monetary penalty system, shared services review. And I believe our bylaw officer, Mr. Tardif, is here, and would you please give your report?
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. So, Mr. Mayor, to you and all of council, excuse me, this report is in regards to a shared service agreement for a hearing officer. Under the Administrative Monetary Penalty System, or AMPS, there's a requirement for an appeal process. This system outlines the first stage being a screening officer and the second stage a hearing officer. The screening officer is the first stage in the appeal. If the appellant is not satisfied with that decision, they have the opportunity to request a hearing from a hearing officer. Currently, the township relies on hearing officer services from the city of Port Colborne. Excuse me. Back in June of 2021, the Niagara area bylaw officers and clerks met to discuss entering into a shared service agreement for a hearing officer. In these discussions, it was found that all of the municipalities here in Niagara use the same hearing officer, just under different agreements. During these discussions, it was found that 8 of the 12 Niagara municipalities were in favor of entering into an agreement. As outlined in the report, by entering into this agreement, it will increase customer service by having the ability to have hearings in a timely manner, and will be cost savings by reducing staff time. And if we don't use the allotted money, as the report states, it'll go to the next year, and this is a 3-year term. On average, 3 hearings will be what it would take to be at the cost of what our yearly fee would be. And on average, we receive 4 to 5 hearing requests per year. Mostly parking related offenses. However, with the addition of non-parking AMPs now included to our municipal bylaws, it's expected that the hearing requests will be increased. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Okay, put the motion on the floor first. Bylaw enforcement staff report 001-2022. Administrative monetary penalty system shared service agreement be received. Council authorize and direct the mayor and township clerk to execute the shared services agreement to jointly provide for the services of a hearing officer attached here to as Appendix A, and that council approve a draft bylaw attached to this report as Appendix B, being a bylaw to delegate authority to the chief admin officer to appoint a screening officer and hearing officer for the Township of Wainfleet. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor McClellan, Councillor Van Vliet, and discussion. Questions to our bylaw officer. It's going to save us money, yes, so that's always a good idea. Okay, seeing no questions, do recorded vote. Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
And Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
Thank you, that's carried. Now move on to our drainage staff report, and we'll look to our drainage superintendent, Mark Jemison, to speak to that, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of council, drainage staff report 1 for 2022 is recommending the 3rd and final reading of the Chambers Corner drain extension. So this is a new drain created under Section 4 of the Drainage Act to facilitate drainage at the Central Fire Station. So there were no appeals submitted through the Drainage Act process, and following the 3rd reading, the drain can be constructed whenever that falls in part with the Central Fire Station process. So I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Motion being drainage staff report 001-2022 respecting the final reading of the Chambers Corner Drain Extension report be received, and that bylaw number 40-2021 being a bylaw to provide for drainage works in the Township of Wainfleet be given a 3rd and final reading and is passed. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Van Vliet, Councillor Cridland. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
I am in favor. That is carried. Thank you. We now move on to the fire staff report, draft Central Fire Station project charter, and we'll look to our fire chief to speak to that, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Along with me this evening, I have David Schramm and Eric Duva from UEM Consulting, who was selected as our project management for the construction of the Central Fire Station project. As requested by council, UEM has prepared a project charter, and the purpose of my report was just to provide background on the purpose of a charter, where the charter kind of has progressed or evolved through the area of our project, and also to provide or present the draft charter as prepared by David and Eric. So if there's any questions of council towards David and Eric, they are here.
Okay, thank you. Just put a motion on the floor that this report, draft Central Fire Station project charter, be received as information, and that the project charter attached as Appendix A to this report be approved by council. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Van Vliet and Councillor Gilmore. And discussion or questions to our UEM employee or staff. Okay, seeing no questions. Opposed or in favor? Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
I'm in favor. That is carried. Thank you. And now we'll go to the chief for his brief overview on your memo regarding the bunker gear.
Yeah, again, through you, Mr. Mayor. So as part of our evergreen plan that was introduced in 2019 to flatline our budgets, we set out that we would purchase 12 sets of bunker gear on an annual kind of rotational basis. We've been provided notice by our supplier that as of February 1st, that bunker gear is set to see a 12% increase. So with the understanding that this is an annual budget item anyways, to avoid these cost increases, I'm requesting council's approval to proceed with the purchase of the bunker gear prior to council's approval of the capital budget for 2022.
And the savings in dollars, I just touch on that.
So it's about $3,000 in savings for the 12 sets.
Right, just so the public knows. We order it this week, we save $3,000. We order it next week, we spend $3,000 more that we don't need to.
That's correct.
Okay, so the motion being the memorandum submitted by the fire chief respecting structural firefighting and bunker gear be received, and that council authorize the purchase of structural firefighting personal protective equipment before the 2022 budget is approved to avoid the quoted price increase of 12% set to take effect on February the 1st, 2022. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor McClellan and Councillor Gilmore. Is there any discussion? Okay, I see none. Recorded vote. Councillor Gilmore.
Favor.
Councillor Cridland.
Favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
I'm in favor of saving $3,000. That is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the Public Works Staff Report, Canada Summer Games Torch Relay, and we look to Mr. Nan to speak to that, please. Hello, Richard.
Thank you, Your Worship, through yourself and members of council. This is Staff Report 001-2022. It's in regards to an opportunity that the Township is having regarding a torch relay for the Canada Summer Games. As council is aware, we've been working through the process of a 13 for 13 event to be held here in the Township. This is just another portion of the Canada Games where, similar to the Olympics, where they have a torch that is lit. In this case, the torch will be lit at Parliament Hill at the Centennial Flame. It'll travel down to the Niagara to be lit for the Canada Summer Games. And we have an opportunity to host a portion of the relay of a relay in the Township. Our event will be taking place on Saturday, July 9th. And we've already been working with the process with Canada Games to select a route, let's put it that way, that will avoid any issues or complications regarding the MTO or the region. We've selected a route which will leave the opening ceremonies will take place in the arena parking lot. The route will travel across Park Street to Side Road 20, to Feeder Road, down to Daly Ditch, to Abbey, across Abbey, and then back to Side Road 20 to the parking lot again, where we'll have another event, a final event to take place as well. There will be an opportunity for members of the public and council and yourself, Mayor, that if you'd like to participate in the torch run, registrations for applications for all, including the public, will be open, I believe, on January 31st. And we'll share it through our social media, the exact location once it becomes public. There'll be an opportunity for the public to join. We're anticipating 500-meter sections throughout the route, so that'll bring us to about 50 participants. We've reviewed the route, and we're actually hoping that somebody may even potentially put in a canoe leg. There's a section of feeder along that route that may be potentially being used by a canoe, so it may be something different and unique to Wainfleet if somebody wants to do that. Additionally, we're hoping that we may be able to reach out to some of our farming community, because we're kind of hoping that the last leg of the event will actually be a tractor with a wagon that we're allowed to put additional members of the public on the wagon and bring that into the home stretch for the Canada Torch relay. The event is being sponsored by Canada Games. Basically, the only costing to the township is a few staff members just to make sure that the arena washrooms are open, etc., and to set up some road closures. But the entire event will be hosted and paid for by the Canada Summer Games.
Thank you very much, Richard. Excellent report. So the motion being that the Public Works Staff Report PWSR 001-2022 regarding the Canada Summer Games Torch Relay be received, and that the Council and Township of Wainfleet support the collaboration with Canada Games and Township staff's preparation for the Canada Games Torch Relay to be held on Saturday, July 9th, 2022. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Cridland, Councillor Van Vliet, and is there any discussion? Councillor Van Vliet had her hand up first. Go ahead.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Richard. First of all, I want to say thank you to you and your crew for the snow removal. That was awesome. And I think this is really cool. I remember when the Olympic torch came through in 1988, and when Rob Schultz took it, that was incredible. So I hope this is just as cool. That's all I wanted to say. And I'm not going to be running, just to let y'all know. I might canoe it. I'm not going to run.
Okay, thank you, Richard.
If I may, Your Worship, to all members of council, you don't have to necessarily run. So there are opportunities where you can walk, you can run, you can take a bicycle, canoe. I think we're going to avoid lawn tractors, but I think a canoe and maybe a farm tractor with a wagon would be a fitting for the township. But yeah, there are other opportunities as well if you want to take a bike and participate that way.
Yeah, we'll see.
Councillor Cridland.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, probably to Richard. And again, this is probably all taken care of, but our schools, the local schools now engage, and there's outreach obviously to the schools for something like this. I know it's July, but kids will want to really perhaps be part of this. So
through Your Worship, to Councillor Cridland, it is, the registration is open to all participants. The only criteria basically is they have to be able to carry the torch, and I believe it's 8 pounds. So they have to be able to carry the length of it. So the criteria will be set by Canada Games. They will be doing the selection process, not ourselves. But again, it's open to the public to register and to put their name forward for it.
Thank you.
This is it's a good thing. You know, this pandemic has really worn everybody down, and you know, this is an excellent opportunity to do something fun. It's in July. Hopefully by then everything is back to pretty much normal. Same with the Nunavut party on August the 16th, I think that is. That's going to be an excellent event as well here in Wainfleet. So here's a couple of events. Care, thank you to the Canada Games that Wainfleet can enjoy and have some fun, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you very much, Richard. And I know the work that's putting into it with you and the committee, it's extensive, and you're on top of all the other work you have to do. It's really appreciated. Thank you very much. And go ahead.
Sorry, if I may add one thing, Your Worship. And if any member of the public wants to assist us in volunteering to put this event on, there are a few areas that we could use volunteers that day. But again, if it's open to the public, if anybody wants to volunteer, they can reach out to me and contact me, and we will find something for them to do.
That's excellent. So we should make sure that gets on our website as an opportunity to get involved in helping with the torch run, and we get Wainfleet residents involved, and it's a positive thing for us, and considering all the negative stuff that's been going on in the last 2 years. So I saw the Olympic torch run in Vancouver in 2010, and was involved in some of that, and it actually is pretty cool to see that sort of thing happen. So it's kind of good. Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, recorded vote. Councillor Gilmore, in favor or opposed?
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
I'm in favor. That is carried. Okay, we'll move on now to correspondence, and there's no correspondence pulled unless somebody wants to pull some last minute correspondence to speak to. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to bylaws. We'll do first the drainage bylaw, and we'll read that separately. That's bylaw number 40, 2021, being a bylaw to provide for drainage works in the Township of Wainfleet Chambers Corner drain extension be read a second and third time and passed this 25th day of January 2022. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor McClellan, Councillor Van Vliet. Any other discussion on the drain? Seeing none, recorded vote. Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. That is carried. And the remaining two bylaws will be read and passed this 25th day of January 2022. Bylaw number 7, 2022, being a bylaw to delegate authority to the Chief Admin Officer to appoint a screening officer and hearing officer for the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet. And bylaw number 008, 2022, being a bylaw to appoint a chief building official for the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor McClellan, Councillor Cridland, and discussion. Okay, seeing none. Recorded vote. Councillor Gilmore.
John had his hand up briefly.
Oh, sorry. Councillor McClellan.
Yeah, I was just going to ask who it was we did finally pick for our chief building official, but we can get that later.
Okay. Will, did you want to speak there about something?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council. Yes, the name of the individual is Mr. Benjamin Hopkins. Mr. Hopkins comes to us from Niagara-on-the-Lake and has a very well put together history and background in building departments and in bylaw enforcement and other related matters. So very qualified individual. We look forward to him joining the team.
Okay, thank you. So to the votes. Councillor Gilmore.
Favor.
Councillor Cridland.
Favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
And Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
Okay, those are carried. Thank you. Notices of motion at our last council meeting. Councillor Cridland announced that she had a notice of motion coming forward for this meeting. And so I would like Councillor Cridland to now give us that motion, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The motion is that staff be directed to complete a review of our existing road allowance conveyance policy and bring back by September or early if possible, but I know we've got lots on the go, including options to add further transparency to our process.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
the
Now,
motion. Yeah.
you may speak to it now, or you may speak to it last, your choice.
I can speak to it last if it's needed. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else with questions for that motion? Okay,
It needs to be moved.
seeing none, go ahead, Councillor Cridland.
Sorry, I thought it needed to be moved or seconded at least.
Oh, did I? Yeah, not. Thank you. I didn't do that, did I? Mover and a seconder for that motion, please. My apologies. Councillor McClellan and Councillor Gilmore. Okay, thank you. That's on the floor now. Now, is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, Councillor Cridland, go ahead.
Are we calling the question then in favor?
No, if you wish to speak to it, to expand on it.
No, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It's a result of the work we've just recently done with the one road allowance. So if there's opportunities to look at that policy and update it, that's the request. So I'm happy to call the question.
Great, thank you. Okay, opposed or in favor of this motion, Councillor Gilmore.
In favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much, Councillor Cridland.
Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any notices of motion from council for the next meeting? Okay, seeing none. We don't have a closed meeting. Will, there's nothing for closed. So bylaw to confirm the proceedings of this council meeting. Bylaw number 009-2022 being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the actions of the council at its meeting held on the 25th day of January 2022 be read and passed this 25th day of January 2022. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor McClellan and Councillor Gilmore. Any discussion? Seeing none. In favor or opposed, Councillor Gilmore.
Favor.
Councillor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Councillor Cridland.
In favor.
Councillor McClellan.
In favor.
And that is carried. There being no further business for this meeting, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. That was very clean and quick. Thank you.
Short and sweet.
Thank
Yep.
you.